welcome to Palace Confidential, the show that brings you the latest news and analysis of the royal family with insight from the Mail's unrivalled team. Joining me today is royal correspondent Rebecca English, columnist Sarah Vine and gossip columnist Richard Eden. And here's what we have to look forward to today. Prince Andrew is back in the news, so we've gone to Woking. Find out why in just a couple of minutes. Another unwelcome sight, well, for the royals at least, is that Thomas Markle is back and it doesn't sound like he's going away anytime soon. And Catherine's candid camera. The Duchess of Cambridge branches out with some serious photography skills. Well, the royal family have been barely out of the news this year. And just when the palace might have thought that the Harry and Meghan fiasco had died down, well, this happened.
I think in that context, it's fair for people to know whether Prince Andrew has followed through with that public commitment. So let me say that the Southern District of New York and the FBI have contacted Prince Andrew's attorneys and requested to interview Prince Andrew. And to date, Prince Andrew has provided zero cooperation.
That's New York State Attorney Geoffrey Berman there, saying that despite promises to do so, Prince Andrew has not cooperated with the FBI investigation. Rebecca, is that true, do you think? And this must just be devastating for the Queen when she's just desperate for things to get back to normal.
Well, it's personally devastating for her as well, because Andrew is famously, and it is true, has always been her favourite son. So this is something that's quite difficult for her as a mother as well as a monarch, I think. Well, there's no doubt that what happened in New York on Monday absolutely blindsided Buckingham Palace. They weren't expecting this. And what was really interesting is they've spent, you know, the past couple of years being Andrew's mouthpiece over the Epstein case. Suddenly, we're not commenting, we're not speaking for him. You know, you need to speak to his legal team. The questions we ask, well, who are his legal team? We're not going to say. So it was literally like Andrew was being cut adrift. And that was a really noticeable change.
Do we know what prompted the Americans to do what they did?
Because it's very strange, isn't it? That, yeah, that just
but have
suddenly...
they been putting through requests that haven't been answered?
Yeah.
Is that what's happened?
Well, that's what they're saying.
Right.
But then I spoke to sources close to Andrew, not, I stress with his authorisation, but people who know what's going on. And they say he's hurt, he's bewildered, he's angry this has come out, that he hasn't heard from them, and he's made very clear that he's willing to cooperate.
Sure, but I spoke to a close friend of his yesterday, and they're all very keen to support him, and they're tearing their hair out, really, because they see, you know, this FBI boss grandstanding on the steps of Epstein's former home. And then they say they haven't heard from him anyway. So they just seem like they're setting up Prince Andrew to be the fall guy in all this. He's got plenty of prominent American friends. You know, there's Bill Clinton, who spent far more time with Epstein than Prince Andrew ever did.
Yeah.
But they seem to be concentrating on let's get the British prince.
Why not just do the right thing, Sarah, don't you think? I mean, should he just
I
not
don't
speak
understand
now?
why the FBI don't send a couple of guys to England and they can have an interview with him and he can answer their questions and then they can move on with the investigation. It seems to me that I think that there are lots of questions about Andrew's behaviour, but I don't think they're being very fair to him on this, because to make a public statement like that, as you say, completely out of the blue,
in a blindsiding
when he
way.
has very obviously said, "I'm very happy to call." They are obviously trying to capitalise on the whole thing, and I think that's very poor. And I suspect maybe that's why the palace haven't dignified it with a response, because it's just appalling behaviour.
I mean, let's remember what's going on here is that, you know, the American authorities are under a lot of pressure and criticism over their initial investigation, where they came to a plea bargain with Epstein. He served just over a year in prison.
Yeah, they let him off, basically.
And now they're desperate.
And that's an impressive scalp, isn't it? A member of the royal family.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now they're desperate to claim a prominent scalp and show that they're very proactive.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is that we don't. I mean, the events that he's accused of happened a very, very long time ago. There's not going to be any forensic evidence either way. Let's be honest. He needs to answer questions. He needs to be held to account. But I still think that however badly he may have behaved and however badly he came across in that Emily Maitlis interview, and I think he really did, he came across as arrogant and self-entitled and all the things that we have heard that he is for many, many years. You know, there's a big difference between being, you know, a bit of a
posh twit,
and being, you know, a rapist or whatever it is. And the two are not the same thing at all. And just because we don't terribly like him, you know, or because he's not very good at giving interviews, or because he lands himself in, makes silly mistakes and says silly things, does not mean to say he's a criminal. So there's a big difference here.
What's the end game, Rebecca? How does this go away? And
well, I don't think it does, and I
No.
think that's over the years, that's what he's been hoping, that it would go away. And it's quietened down for a few years, and then something has made it kind of hit the headlines again. But what I think Andrew and the royal family have now realised is they can't duck this forever, and there has to be a conclusion. One of the reasons why he chose to do the interview last year was because he wanted to try, he thought he was going to draw a line under this, not realising obviously how disastrously he would come across.
Right, well, we've heard from the experts, but what do the Queen's loyal subjects think about all of this? Well, there was only one place to go to find out. You guessed it, near the Pizza Express in Woking. That's where Prince Andrew claims he was, famously, the night an accuser says that they had sex.
He knows, I think, he's made a lot of mistakes, and that interview was a complete disaster. He didn't come over as genuine.
I think he's done quite a lot for the royal family over the years and for the country, and so I think I'd keep him in the fold, although I am worried about what he seems to be getting up to over the last few years.
Well, considering what's happened with Prince Harry, I think it'd be really unfair if, like, they kind of were so disrespectful towards him, and then Prince Andrew kind of gets away with having preferred friends. I don't know what else you want me to say about that.
Certainly, I think she should have him on as few public duties as possible. Yeah, I don't think he's a good representative of the royal family.
No, not really. I don't think he should be. No way. He's sort of made a bit of a mockery of Woking, I think.
I don't think he would be welcome back in Woking after he's used us as his get-out clause to justify his bad actions.
Pizza Express, absolutely.
I'm sure he would, because I'm sure people will want to come and see him just to see him eating in that pizza restaurant.
No. 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 No.
Well, from bad public relations to bad relations going public. See what we did there? Thomas Markle squeezed himself back onto TV screens with another TV interview this week. During the chat on Good Morning Britain, he said it would be the last time he spoke publicly about his daughter, but only for 30 days. If Meghan and Harry hadn't spoken to him by then, he would give another interview and keep repeating the process every month. Well, I'm going to grab the popcorn for that one. Rebecca, another interview in 30 days. They can't let that happen, can they? What do you think?
Well, he obviously feels desperate, desperate. This is the only way he can actually get his feelings across to them. But it is just so not Harry. It's the last thing Harry wants.
It's just such a catch-22. They're angry with him for talking to the press, so frozen him out. So the way that he will sort of like appeal to them is to talk to the press. It doesn't seem like it's sort of like.
And it's the one thing that really won't appeal to Harry.
Yeah.
He's always had a very complicated and difficult relationship with the media. So it is the last thing he will want him to be doing. And I don't think it's going to actually mend any bridges, unfortunately.
Do you think that he's going to find more revelations? Because even with that ultimatum and that threat, there's only so much you can keep saying to the press. What else is he going to come up with to sustain that?
And I feel we have kind of heard it all now. I mean, he's obviously a man in deep anguish. He's obviously a man that's not well. And when you saw the television documentary that he did about his daughter the other week, he's obviously a man who really loved his daughter. And I think it's quite a sad state of affairs. But I think for him, a period of silence would probably do him more benefit.
What do you think, Richard?
Oh, come on, they need to swallow their pride.
Oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever seen you look so angry straight out the gates.
They need to just visit him, or ring him something. If Meghan rang him and said, "Look, Dad, I'm really sorry."
So you're blaming the blame for you is at the foot of the royals.
Definitely, yeah. I think they've handled it badly from day one with Mr. Markle, and now I think it is up to them to mend fences, really. And yes, it's annoying to have him giving this string of interviews, but he clearly feels it's the only way left to him to kind of make an impression, make his point.
Do any of you have any insight into why this was not locked down from the beginning? Why was this not handled from day one?
Isn't it? Because you'd have thought the palace would have sent a couple of nice chaps over to America.
And I've been to the palace. There's a lot of those.
Yes, to sort of smooth the way and say, look, this is going to be quite difficult for you, and it's going to you're going to be very exposed. But maybe they did, and he just didn't want it. I think he is quite a difficult man. Clearly, I think he's a bit of a loose cannon. I think that I take a slightly more cynical view. I think he's milking this for everything that he can get out of it. He's obviously being paid for his appearances. You know, he's going to turn into the sort of equivalent of Paul Burrow, who's going to make a lovely career out of being Meghan's dad, and every time, you know, he's going to be a thorn in their side, and I think they do need to neutralise him somehow, and whether that means slightly swallowing their pride and just love bombing him to just get him to stop, I don't know. I mean, you know, family relationships are very difficult. It's always very difficult when a daughter marries. I thought it was very funny that he said, you know, he showed a photograph of himself when he was young. He said, and I even look like Harry. I mean, he clearly has...
I'd like to see that split screen right now, actually.
He has a little bit... He does obviously have, you know, there's a lot of... There's something of the sort of old stag about him, isn't there? He still wants to be part of her life. He's quite jealous of Harry.
Do we think, Richard, he's definitely being paid for his contributions to the media, or do you think or is it just genuinely a loving father's heartfelt appeal in the best media he knows?
Well, sure, possibly he is getting paid a bit, but that's definitely not his primary motivation from what I can see.
How do you know?
Because I think he's turned down, you know, far bigger offers that he's received. I mean, when the documentary recently, I think, was made by an independent filmmaker who'd established a relationship with him, and he's given lots of interviews to newspapers for free. I think he's definitely turned down a fortune.
I think that the cynical view will be that he's taking money, but I'm just not sure, actually.
Well, we don't know, obviously. That's the answer. But it's very... I mean, I think this threat to come back in 30 days' time until they... do whatever it is that he wants them to do is very unwise.
No, I think what's
I don't think that's going to do him any favours.
I know there's a little bit of me, maybe it's just false hope, but there's a little bit of me that thinks if they did go there and they did hold out an olive branch, then it might just be quite well received. It's clear that he's not a well man, very clearly, and he wants to see his daughter and rebuild that relationship before he dies.
Well, I, for one, am looking forward to 30 days from now to see what happens next.
Well, he is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the awful thing about it, you know.
Well, Meghan's public relations troubles have coincided with a PR boon for Kate Middleton, as well as making headlines for an emotional confession at a women's centre and a visit to a prison. This week, she released 2 new photographs she had taken to coincide with the 75th anniversary of the Holocaust. Our very own Richard Enid made this report about the snapper Duchess.
Since the invention of the camera, being a member of the royal family has meant a life looking down the lens. But recently, the Duchess of Cambridge has turned that on its head. Her Instagram account, @KenstonRoyal, has become a showcase for intimate family portraits, all taken by herself. We've seen Prince George in an England shirt for his 6th birthday, Princess Charlotte exploring the grounds of their Norfolk home, Anne Hall, on her 4th birthday, and Prince Louis as a newborn, to name but a few. They are a world away from traditional pictures we've seen of the royals, taken by press cameramen or from Cecil Beaton, Lord Snowdon, Lord Lichfield. The Duchess's photographs of her family have 2 sides to them. On the one hand, they're contemporary, intimate photographs of a loving mother. On the other, they seem to be part of building her image as a hands-on mother looking after her own children rather than leaving them to nannies. This week, Kate, who has been called the arty one by Prince William, showed a new side to her work with 2 portraits of concentration camp survivors and their families, released as part of her involvement in the 75th anniversary of the end of the Holocaust. The results were gentle and inviting scenes of family life, lit in a style that some compared to the Baroque Dutch painter Vermeer. Photographer Richard Young has been taking celebrities' photos and portraits for more than 40 years. He gave us his views on Kate's work.
Ones I've seen have been fantastic, especially of George. They've been lovely in his school uniform, and he's obviously thought about it, the compositions and everything else. Depending on what area of photography she wants to concentrate on, should it be portrait or lifestyle? If she's looking for good quality, good pictures, the one that she should use is the Leica Q, and it's a great camera. I'm going to be using 2 later on this evening when I'm working. But if she wants to come out and come to a party one evening with me, she's more than welcome. I'd love to take her.
Meanwhile, art expert James Nichols, chairman of the International Maddox Galleries Group, believes that the pictures will be of great interest to both historians and art collectors.
Royal photography has really changed, but now you've got Kate she's taking photographs of the children in such a natural way, and her love shines through. It really does. I don't have to say that, but it's apparent to everyone. The value of the work that she does will increase significantly because she is evolving so dramatically, and it's such a positive thing. But she's someone of incredible credibility, if you can use that expression, and I think she'll have an exceptional career going forward.
All eyes will be on the Duchess's next step in her photographic career, giving us a fascinating look at the world through her eyes and providing her with an opportunity to express her creativity, something that the royals have long found hard to do.
OK, well, she's talked recently about feeling isolated as a young mother. And do you think, Rebecca, that this is her way of coping with that, this photography project?
I'm not sure about her way of coping it, but I know she's always felt very awkward with the press attention and the attention that comes with being with the man she's married to. And I think this is her way of trying to express herself in a way that she feels comfortable. And she's always loved photography. You know, she's a really keen amateur photographer, and in fact some people even say better than amateur, always snapping her children, photographs we're now seeing in public. And I think she's quite interested in exploring different ways to do her royal duties, and this is one of them.
What do you think, Richard?
I think there's a touch of the Emperor's New Clothes about this. I mean, yeah, you know,
that's catty.
No, come on, they are nice pictures generally. And the ones she took this week were very, very worthy. But then most of the family pictures are no better than you know, any one of our viewers would be taking of their own children. So you know, I just miss the artworks that we had from.
I thought they were good.
That's a bit mean.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's really difficult if you're married to someone incredibly famous to have any sort of identity as a person, and it's particularly difficult for a woman. And I think actually taking pictures is a very inoffensive and effective way of her just establishing a little bit of her own personality in her own right without offending or upsetting anyone.
I just miss those royal portraits, the sort of Cecil Beaton.
But we can still have those.
But maybe,
I mean,
maybe she's developing towards that.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But I do think, I mean, I always remember when David Cameron was Prime Minister, Samantha Cameron used to spend every single day working on her pattern cutting. You know, she went to Central St Martin's, she learned how to do it, and that's what she did. And that, in many ways, kept her very sane, I think. And I think that, you know, I think the Duchess of Cambridge does need something that's hers, that she can say, this is mine, this is what I do. You don't have to like it, but I enjoy it, and it just slightly gives me a little bit of a hinterland, and that Rebecca, I'm not just, you know, 2 steps behind my husband the whole time.
Does that, I know there's a lot you can't say, but you, of all of us, have spent time with the Duchess. Does what Sarah's saying chime with the person you know and her interests, her personal interests?
Yeah, I mean, photography is a passion with her, and it's certainly when it comes to the photographs of the children, we as an industry, I think, were a little bit reticent to her doing that at first because, you know, the palace liked to control things, and it did seem like even photographs of our future king and his siblings were being controlled. But I think we've all changed our opinion on that, that actually only a mother or a father can really get the best out of their children. And the pictures we're seeing of those children are so sweet, are so heartwarming. And I think they show us in a light that we probably would never see them.
I mean, the thing
about... you see the individual personalities of the children much better as well.
Yeah.
And they obviously have 3 very different personalities. And George is terribly serious and obviously very pensive, and Charlotte's completely, you know... So I like that about it. And only a mother can appreciate that, and only a mother knows that.
And there's a lovely photograph of George that they released of him lying on the grass at the palace gardens with his England kit on, laughing. And that's just something I hate to say it, but it's an industry we couldn't get out of it.
You'd never get a photographer to do
get it out of
you know,
it.
Cecil
and I think
wouldn't
it shows them in a really beautiful light.
I mean, to be a bit fairer to Richard, I was teasing you before, but if you know, if she decided to be an artist and drew stick figures and some fuzzy felt, there is an element that everybody would still sit around and give it rapturous applause, isn't there? It's a very difficult thing to navigate as a royal individual, that fair critique, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we want to be polite generally, don't we, and encouraging. And as you say, it's that great access that she's got.
But you see, the thing is when Meghan did her Vogue edition of Vogue, which I was very rude about because I just thought it was the most unbelievably woke sort of virtue signalling thing.
I thought it was a bit by numbers.
And it was a bit by numbers.
Yeah.
and you know, because, and the reason it didn't work was because she was trying to say this is who, you know, she was trying to big herself up through this project. I think the great thing about these photographs is there's none of that. It's just, you know, I'm just doing this. These are my children. You know, it's in a funny kind of way. It's much. It feels much more genuine.
Well, I mean, it is still contrived to a point, though, isn't it? It is still like all good Instagrammers do, so like managing your image, to, you know, to your point.
And we don't hold back, as you well know, from criticising people. So, for example, when I was with them when we went to Borneo a few years ago, Kate released some pictures that she took in the jungle, and quite frankly, they were really average, and no one held back from saying so. And I think they've learnt from that. And I think what was really lovely about the portraits of the Holocaust survivors and their families this week is it wasn't about her. Yes, they got the publicity out of it because she took them, but she made it very clear this was about them and telling their stories through the medium of portraiture.
So, how much help did Kate have with those pictures, I wonder? Because I asked the palace about it, and they wouldn't say anything at all, but they looked very staged, you know.
Well, they were, because they were a staged formal portrait, and she took her inspiration from kind of historical artists. But my understanding was she spent like 2.5 hours with them. She taught them through what they wanted to portray.
Do you think that Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge, do you think she has forensic knowledge of lighting and different cameras and, you know, all of that technical stuff, or do you think that there's a lot of propping up there?
From my understanding, she actually does. I mean, she is a really very, very keen photographer herself. She's patron of a number of photographic organisations, and I think when you're in the public eye like that, this is stuff you pick up.
You'll get tested on.
She has gone from being, you know, relatively ordinary schoolgirl to one of the most famous women in the world. You know, she's having her picture taken. Well, you pick up these things.
I suppose that's my other question is, can a queen in waiting develop a career like this? Could she actually set up her own studio and have this? Can a working royal take that to that degree?
No, I mean, I don't think you can, and I think it would be wrong for her to do that.
Come on, Jo, do not encourage them to go down the Harry and Meghan route, please.
Well, I was thinking I might, you know, sort of like banking on a portrait of Princess Charlotte for later. Yeah, for my cover.
And I know there's some things I can't talk about that are coming up over the next few weeks, that they are looking at doing some slightly different things, you know, that they are embracing the tradition that has kept the monarchy going, that, you know, this is the reason why the Queen's done well, but just bringing something a little bit new, something a little bit modern in, to maybe make it appeal and connect with a kind of younger audience.
Yeah, and I think that certainly her public image at the moment is sky high, isn't it? It's like she's...
Well, I mean, the thing is, she's just very skilled at being who she is.
Yeah.
I mean, she's had a lot of practice at it, and she does it very well. And she feels very satisfied. When you look at her, you don't get the sense of somebody who is not satisfied with their place in life at the moment. You know, she's got 3 lovely children. They all seem to be doing quite well. She seems very settled, and I think that's, you know, women tend to. It's when you're at this stage in your life as a mother where things become a little tiny bit easier, and you start to perhaps spend a bit more time on yourself, thinking a bit more about what you want to do, more me time. And I think maybe that's part of what this is. She's got a lot of confidence, I think.
I was going to say, she does seem a
lot
more confident.
She's suddenly a lot more confident, and it really has grown very clearly in the last few years. You know, and she's just a very safe pair of hands. And I think, you know, at the moment that's what the royal family needs. I mean, the thing about Kate is, you know,
desperately,
if you send her out into the world, you know that she will do everything right. You don't have any worries. I mean, Andrew's completely off the planet. I mean, everyone else is a sort of loose cannon. But you know, Kate and William, safe pair of hands.
Well, that seems a perfect note to end on for this week, because that is all we have time for on Palace Confidential. Thank you so much to my guests Rebecca, Sarah, and Richard, and thank you to you for watching. We'll see you next week.